Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. Today, we're going to get into something I think everybody wants to know more about. What it takes to be successful.
Yeah.
We've got a ton of great research lined up.
Really interesting stuff.
I'm excited to get into it. But success can be kind of a tricky thing to define, right? I mean, it means something different for everyone. So before we even get started, I think it's worth taking a moment to just think about what success means to you.
Yeah.
Like right now in this moment.
Absolutely.
What does it look like? What does it feel like?
Yeah, get a good picture of that.
Yeah, and hold on to that
Mm-hmm.
because that's going to be our compass for this whole deep dive.
I love that. Using that as a compass.
Yeah.
That's really the starting point, isn't it?
Yeah.
A lot of the advice out there about success kind of skips over that part.
It does.
It jumps right into the doing without really stopping to define what it is you're actually trying to achieve.
Right. Like, what are we actually working towards here?
Exactly.
Yeah. And that makes me think about one of the articles we're looking at today.
Okay.
It's about a study that followed a group of Harvard grads for decades.
Oh, wow. Harvard grad.
Yeah, and tracked their levels of both success
Okay.
and happiness,
Interesting.
which are not always the same thing.
Not at all.
But they found that the people who had written down clear, specific goals
Mm-hmm.
that reflected their own personal values
Oh, interesting.
were way more likely to not only achieve those goals,
Okay.
but also report higher levels of life satisfaction overall.
So it's not just about achieving.
Right.
It's about making sure that what you're achieving actually aligns with what you value.
Exactly. So I think that's step one, right?
Yeah.
Get clear on your personal definition of success.
Absolutely.
Write it down, make it real. But then how do we actually make it happen?
Right. That's the big question.
Yeah, it's not magic, right?
No, it's not.
You can't just snap your fingers.
The magic wand.
Right, and suddenly you're successful.
So this is where this idea of a growth mindset comes in.
Okay.
I know it's a bit of a buzzword these days,
It is.
but it's really powerful.
Okay.
It's about believing that your abilities can be developed, that you can learn and grow and adapt no matter what obstacles you face.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes people say just have a growth mindset.
Right.
Like it's a light switch you can just flip on.
Right. If only were that easy.
Right. But how do we actually do that? How do we actually cultivate a growth mindset?
Well, the sources we're looking at actually offer some tangible techniques.
Okay, good.
One that I really like is this idea of reframing challenges as opportunities for learning.
Oh.
So instead of saying, I can't do this, you shift to, what can I learn from this situation?
So it's not about seeing setbacks as failures,
Right.
but more as data points, as feedback.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That helps us improve.
I like that a lot. And speaking of setbacks, the research actually brings up Thomas Edison, in his famous quote about the 10,000 failures before perfecting the light bulb.
That's the one.
But I don't think he really saw them as failures, did he?
Not at all.
Like, he didn't just give up, right?
Absolutely not.
He didn't say, well, guess I'm not meant to invent things.
He was too persistent for that.
Right. What did he do?
So one of the sources highlighted his meticulous record keeping
Oh, interesting.
during his experiments.
Okay.
He documented every single attempt, every tweak, every setback,
Wow.
not as a failure, but as a valuable piece of data.
Like he was building a library
Yeah,
of what doesn't work,
exactly.
which ultimately helps you find what does work.
Absolutely. He turned those setbacks into stepping stones.
So powerful. It's not just about being optimistic. It's about turning those challenges into fuel.
Yes.
And not growth.
That's the growth mindset in action.
Yeah, it's a process, not just a one-time thing.
It's ongoing.
Right?
You're constantly learning,
You have to be.
embracing feedback, stepping outside your comfort zone.
And that, I think, leads us perfectly to the next stage of building a successful life,
Okay, I'm ready.
which is setting the right goals.
Let's do it.
So we've got our definition of success, we've got the growth mindset, but now we need to actually set some goals.
Right, you have to have something to aim for.
Yeah, goals are key, but it can't just be like, I want to be rich and famous.
No, not quite that simple.
Yeah, or like, I wish I had more free time.
Right, those are wishes,
Yeah, vague aspirations.
not really goals.
So how do we make them actionable?
Well, one of the sources we're looking at talks about this really cool goal-setting framework called WHOOP.
Whoop.
WHOOP. Yeah, it's an acronym.
Okay, I'm listening.
It stands for Wish Outcome Obstacle Plan.
Okay, I'm following so far.
So you start with your wish that big, audacious goal.
Like the I want to be rich and famous part.
Yeah, that's the starting point.
Okay.
But then you go deeper.
Okay.
You visualize the outcome.
So like what would it actually feel like to achieve that goal?
exactly what would be the best possible result.
Okay, so it's not just the what, but also the why.
Right, the emotional payoff.
I like that.
Yeah, and then you get to the obstacles.
Okay, so this is where things get real.
Right.
Yeah.
What might stand in your way?
Yeah, it could be internal stuff like procrastination.
Or self-doubt.
Or external things like limited resources.
Right, or a tough job market.
So you're basically trying to anticipate the challenges before they even happen.
Exactly. It's all about being proactive.
I love that.
Yeah, and then the final step is the plan.
Okay, so this is how we overcome those obstacles.
That's it. Brainstorming solutions, seeking out resources, maybe even developing some strategies to deal with those internal challenges.
So you're like creating a roadmap.
Yeah, a roadmap for success.
For navigating those inevitable bumps in the road.
Exactly. Because, let's face it, there will be bumps.
Always.
It's part of the journey.
This is reminding me of SMART goals.
Yeah, Whoops kind of builds on that framework.
Right, but it seems like it adds an extra layer of self-awareness.
You got it. And strategic planning.
Yeah, it's not just about the outcome.
Right. It takes into account those potential roadblocks and the emotional aspect.
I'm a fan of WHOOP.
Me too. It's like SMART Goals 2.0.
Supercharged for success.
Exactly. And it really forces you to understand your motivations, your fears, even your weaknesses.
Which can be a little uncomfortable.
It can be, but it's crucial for developing effective strategies.
Okay, so we've got our definition of success. We're embracing a growth mindset. We're setting those WHOOP-powered goals. What's next?
All that planning is great, but it's meaningless without consistent action.
Action. This is where things get real.
It's where the rubber meets the road.
Yeah, and I think this is where habits come in.
Absolutely. Habits are the building blocks of success.
It's one thing to dream it, but it's those daily actions, those routines that actually shape our reality.
Couldn't have said it better myself, and one of the articles we're looking at goes deep into the science of habit formation.
Oh, and
Yeah, it talks about this thing called the habit loop.
the habit loop.
Yeah, it has three main components.
Okay, lay it on me.
The cue, the routine, and the reward.
Oh, okay, break that down.
So the cue is the trigger that starts the habit.
Okay.
Could be a time of day, a location, an emotion, even another action.
So like waking up in the morning.
It's a classic cue.
Right, and then what with the routine would be like brushing your teeth. Or
Exactly, or going for a run, meditating, journaling, having breakfast.
whatever you want to make a habit.
Precisely.
Okay, and then the reward is what makes you want to do it again.
That's it. It reinforces the loop.
So for brushing your teeth, it would be that clean, fresh feeling.
Exactly. Or for working out, it might be the endorphin rush.
Or just that sense of accomplishment.
Right. Or even just checking something off your to-do list.
It's funny, I never really thought about it that way, but so many of my daily routines are built on this habit loop.
It's often subconscious.
Yeah, like making my bed every morning.
You know.
Takes 2 minutes, but it makes me feel so much more organized.
And that feeling of satisfaction, that's the reward.
Exactly.
That's what keeps you making the bed every day.
Okay, so how do we use this habit loop to build good habits?
Well, the research suggests starting small.
Okay.
Don't try to change everything at once.
Overwhelming.
Exactly. Pick one small habit and make it a non-negotiable part of your day.
Like instead of aiming for an hour at the gym, just start with a 10-minute walk.
Perfect. And be consistent, even if it's just 5 minutes a day.
It's about building that muscle memory.
The more you repeat it, the stronger the habit becomes.
Okay, but what about breaking bad habits?
Well, one strategy is to disrupt the cue.
So if you can identify the trigger,
Exactly. You can try to avoid it or modify it.
like if you always scroll social media when you're stressed,
Classic.
maybe try going for a walk instead.
Perfect. Replace the bad habit with a good one.
I love it. Okay, so we've got the growth mindset, the WOP goals, the habit strategies.
We're on a roll.
What else is there?
Well, all this talk about habits and goals brings us to another crucial element of success.
Okay, what's that?
The people we surround ourselves with.
Oh yeah, our social circle.
Exactly. You've probably heard that saying. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yeah, it's a classic.
But what does that actually look like in real life?
Right, like how do we put that into practice?
It's about being intentional about your social environment.
Okay, so it's not about cutting people out of your life,
Not necessarily.
but more about choosing who you spend your time with.
And the kind of energy you allow into your space.
Yeah, I like that.
One of the articles actually compares your social circle to a garden.
Okay, a garden.
Yeah. Imagine a beautiful, thriving garden.
Lots of colorful flowers.
Exactly. And those flowers represent the positive, supportive people in your life.
Okay.
They encourage you, they inspire you, they give you constructive feedback.
They help you grow.
But then there are weeds.
Oh, no weeds.
Yeah, those are the people who drain your energy.
The energy vampires.
Exactly. They bring you down or hold you back.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
And just like a real garden, your social circle needs tending.
You gotta pull those weeds.
You do. It's about cultivating relationships with people who uplift you.
And challenge you.
Yes, make you want to be better.
This makes me think about mentors. Having those role models in your life who have already achieved what you're aiming for.
Absolutely. They can offer so much guidance and inspiration.
This doesn't have to be a formal thing either, right?
Not at all.
It could be someone you admire, a friend who's a few steps ahead.
Or even someone you follow online.
Who shares valuable insights.
Exactly. And it's not just about receiving support.
Right.
It's about giving back, too.
Mentoring others, sharing your knowledge.
Contributing to your community.
It all comes full circle.
It does. Success is not a solo sport.
It takes a village.
It does. It's about building a network of support and positive influence.
Okay, so we've got the growth mindset, the WAPI goals, the habit building the right people.
We're covering all the bases.
What's the final piece that brings it all together?
Well, all this preparation ultimately leads to one crucial element.
And that is action.
Okay, so we're back and ready to keep this deep dive rolling. I have to say, I'm already feeling inspired by everything we've talked about so far.
It's amazing how these little shifts in mindset can make such a big difference, right?
It really is, and it's a perfect lead-in to what we're diving into now.
Okay, what's that?
Resilience.
Resilience, the key to bouncing back from those inevitable setbacks.
Yeah, because let's face it, the road to success is rarely smooth sailing, right?
Definitely not. There are going to be bumps along the way, detours, maybe even a few roadblocks.
Exactly, and we've all been there, right? Those moments where you question everything, doubt creeps in, and you just feel like giving up.
It's part of the process.
It is, but how do we develop that inner strength, that ability to bounce back stronger?
Well, one of the articles we're looking at today has a really cool analogy. It compares resilience to a muscle.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
The idea is that the more you exercise it, the stronger it gets. So it's not something you're born with or without.
Right, it's a skill you can build.
You can train it like any other muscle.
Exactly. And just like physical training, it takes consistent effort.
It makes sense. So what kind of resilience training are we talking about?
Well, the article outlines some really practical strategies, and one that really resonated with me was the power of reframing negative thoughts.
Oh, yeah, we all have those negative thoughts, those self-sabotaging voices in our heads.
We do. But instead of letting them take over, we can consciously choose to shift our perspective.
So it's about catching those negative thoughts and replacing them with something more empowering.
Exactly. For example, instead of thinking, I'm such a failure, I'll never achieve my goals, you might reframe that as, okay, this didn't go as planned, but what can I learn from this experience and how can I do better next time?
It's like turning those setbacks into opportunities for growth.
Exactly. It's a powerful shift in mindset.
It really is. And it ties back to that growth mindset we were talking about earlier.
Absolutely. It's all connected.
And speaking of things that are connected, the source material also highlights the importance of self-care for building resilience.
Oh, that's a big one. Can't pour from an empty cup, right?
Exactly. If we're not taking care of ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, it's going to be much harder to handle those tough times.
It's so true. It's about prioritizing those activities that nourish and replenish us, whether it's getting enough sleep, spending time in nature, connecting with loved ones, or just taking some time for ourselves to recharge.
Yeah, it's about building that foundation of strength and well-being that allows us to weather any storm.
Well said.
And you know what? I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have. We've gone from defining success to building resilience. It's been quite a journey.
Yeah, and I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of what it means to live a successful and fulfilling life.
There's always more to explore.
But I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about. Some really valuable tools and strategies to start creating their own unique paths to success.
I hope so. And as we wrap up, I want to leave everyone with one final thought.
Okay, I'm listening.
We've talked a lot about achieving goals. But what if true success isn't about the destination, but about the journey itself?
I like that.
What if it's about embracing the process of growth, learning, and becoming the best versions of ourselves?
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's a reminder that success is not a finish line, it's an ongoing evolution.
That's right. It's about who we become along the way.
I love that. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Sounds good to me.
Thank you all so much for joining us. And remember, keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving to become the best version of yourselves.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Until next time.